Let's get more on the big breaking news that has major implications for the future of golf. The PGA Tour and the DP World Tour have agreed to merge with the controversial Saudi-backed LIV Golf. It puts an end to any litigation between all the parties. Sky Sports golf expert Andrew Coltart joins us live now. Good afternoon to you, Andrew. Fair to say, did anyone see this coming? Did you?
No, I'm absolutely in shock. Scrolling through Twitter, which seems to be a pretty good modem for finding out what's going on in the world. It's not always a positive thing. I think everybody has just been taken aback by this. Nobody saw it coming. People in the background that I speak to never knew it was coming. Clearly, all the heads have gotten together at one point and tried to bash something out. And I've got to say, at the minute, I'm left scratching my head.
I am too. Apparently, the players found out the same time as everyone else. That's remarkable in itself, right?
It is, because you really would expect, being a player-run organisation, that the players would have an opportunity for some input in that. So it is a little bit bizarre, but, that's how CEOs have that position to go and make executive decisions based on their position and for the benefit of the company that they run. But I understand there's a meeting over there in America and in Canada, actually, at the Canadian Open this week at 4 p.m. Canadian time tonight. Obviously, there's going to be an incredible amount of questions asked. I don't know how many answers are going to be forthcoming at this particular stage, but we'll no doubt find out an incredible amount of this over the next 12 to 24 hours.
I know you've got your finger on the pulse and you speak to a lot of players. Just wonder how Rory McIlroy might be feeling about this, though. I don't know whether you've had a chance to speak to him.
No, I know. That's a tremendous point. He's given his heart and soul for the last 2 years, arguably to the detriment of his own golf game, for the support of the DP World Tour, of the PGA Tour. And I have to question whether actually he knew much about this, but there's absolutely no doubt that if he did, it would have been an incredible distraction. And he'd have to wonder what was all the time and effort for in the first place to get to this point. I think I said a couple of years ago, it was a shame that we couldn't get round the table and hammer something out and avoid all the unnecessary mudslinging and everything that's gone around in the past 2 years. But because that's not been, satisfactory and not been very nice at all. But it's just, this announcement, I think, has just got everybody by shock. And one of the other things I'm thinking about, players were offered a tremendous amount of money to go to LIV. They decided to stay and support the tour. What happens to that large sum of money that they were offered?
No, it's beggars belief, isn't it? My mind goes to the 17 players that were suspended and told that they couldn't compete. And it changes absolutely everything. And also the fact that the players were at loggerheads with each other over this. How do you think there might be a backlash from some of the players that just won't accept this? Do you feel that this has been thought through?
Yeah, they must have, surely they've thought it through. Goodness me, I don't know. I don't know how long it's taken them to think this through. I don't know whether Koepka winning the PGA Championship had anything to do with it, and a large push for him to play Ryder Cup. We've obviously had the difficult decisions that the DP World Tour has had to make regarding the Ryder Cup captaincy for this year, and whether players are going to be allowed to participate. In the past, maintain their membership of the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour. Like you said, relationships have been broken. Some will be able to be mended. Some were never as bad as people thought they would be. But there's no doubt it will leave a bit of a sour taste in some people's mouths. Now, I don't actually think necessarily this whole thing is a bad thing, because everybody's been crying out for the top players in the world to play together. And when those players have come and competed in the same event, it absolutely added a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, spice, that's a good word. Look, so many people in golf have been highly critical of the Saudis bankrolling LIV Golf. Many have called it sports washing. Do you feel anything has changed, or will this change everything?
Yes, it's very interesting. It's a very valid question. Obviously, it enters into a whole bunch of realms of sports, the length and breadth of the sporting spectrum, business and government. It's very difficult and very emotive situations that people, for their own beliefs, quite rightly, are concerned about. Those on one side will forever see it as an attempt to wash away all the ills that go on in that part of the world, and others will just see it as a way forward, a way of maybe breaking down barriers and moving on. It's still a tremendously tumultuous time in the golfing world, and it'll certainly keep the game front and centre, certainly on Sky Sports News and everywhere else.
Yeah, it certainly will. You touched on it a little bit. How do you think it will affect the Ryder Cup now and the selection? Stenson, Westwood, Garcia, etc., all coming back for the Ryder Cup.
I've not drilled down into the details with that yet. My understanding is that things will change certainly at the end of this year. So those players won't be available to play this year, unless, of course, they qualify. But because of the situations that they found themselves to this point, they're well off in that regard. It's just a case of sitting back and diving down into the minutiae of everything that's been decided, how everything's going to be factored out, to see where exactly everybody stands, where the DP World Tour stands, where Keith Pelley stands, where Jay Moynihan and the PGA Tour stands, where LIV stands and their CEO. It's incredible. And of course, where the players stand and what pathways are available to the players, how the whole thing can integrate. It's a scramble at the minute. It really is.
Just finally, Andrew, I just want to ask you, as a lover of golf, it must have been horrible to kind of watch it being very fractious over the last 2 years or so. Is this a good sign? Is this golf winning, do you feel, today?
Well, obviously, there's that moral argument that I completely understand that people will have issues with. From a certain sporting context, having the ability to have all the top players competing against one another, wherever that is in the world, and for the particular sport, is a good thing. I'll leave that up for everybody else to decide based on what their beliefs out with the sport are.
OK, look, I said it was finally my final question, but look, we just have got reaction, actually. We've got the Commissioner and the PIF Governor. If you can just stay there, Andrew, we're just going to hear from Jay Monahan and Yasser Al-Rumayyan. They've both been speaking in the last few minutes to CNBC in America. Let's hear from them and then go back to you.
Listen, I think today it's a historical day for the PGA Tour and the game of golf. And it's a historical day for the PIF and the DP World Tour. And you're right. There's been a lot of tension in our sport over the last couple of years. But what we're talking about today is coming together to unify the game of golf and to do so under one umbrella. And, David, the way that we're doing that is we're creating a for-profit LLC that the PIF is going to invest in alongside the DP World Tour. And together, we're going to move forward. And we're going to take efforts to grow and expand this great game and to take it to new heights. And so what's happened today, and to your earlier question, is we've recognized that together we can have a far greater impact on this game than we can working apart. And I give Yasser great credit for coming to the table, coming to the discussions with an open heart and an open mind. We did the same, and the game of golf is better for what we've done here today.
Yasser, give me some sense here as to how this came about, how the first call was made, and how you were able to find common ground, again, given what had been a particularly difficult history between the PGA and LIV.
We met in London. We had a lunch, followed by the next day a round of golf, then another lunch. We had discussions. We covered everything. And one of the things that I said then, had we met 2 or 3 years ago, the impact that we will have in the game of golf would be lesser.
Why?
Because it would be something small. But the way we're doing our partnership, it's going to be really big. in many senses. We will have both the LIV and the PGA Tour in addition to all of our assets, and we will be investing in the growth of the game of golf and doing many new things that I think will have a better engagement from the players, the fans, the broadcasters, the sponsors, everyone else, and hopefully to even give a better access for more and more people to the game of golf. The way we would love to make the game of golf very much accessible, just like any other sport, just like football, basketball, any other sport. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what we don't have right now and today.
Let's go straight back to Andrew Coltart. What's your reaction to that, Andrew?
I think it's right. What Yasser said there about 2 to 3 years ago, if they'd come together to hash things out. But of course, 2 to 3 years ago, the PIF was seen as a threat to the game, something that potentially was going to take over both the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour. I have no idea whether that was the intentions or not. But at the time, that obviously made getting together around the table very, very tricky indeed. It sounds like, you know, they've talked an awful lot through. There's going to have to be concessions throughout all the tours involved in this. Clearly, some of those concessions have been made. They've found some mutually agreeable ground to stand on, and you know, now we're getting the nice sound bites about it's better for the game, and the game of golf will be great as a result of this, and time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see. But it seems like they've found some common ground for everybody, which certainly 6 months ago, most of us never even thought that was possible.
That's exactly my point. I think there's a lot of us looking at this and thinking they were never, ever going to get to this stage, were they? Do you feel that anyone's backed down in this situation at all?
Well, yeah, it was to begin with a power struggle, wasn't it? So clearly in areas, people, ideas, positions have backed down, moved forward, been moved around, a little bit of give or take here and there, just like you would do business in absolutely any company structure or whatever. And it will be interesting to find out what those are. Again, I'm just in shock because, you know, not that long ago, you just didn't even see the opportunity for these people to actually get round the table. And, you know, I've got to be safe from that point of view, all the moral arguments aside, the fact that people can actually sort of talk about it, try and find, you know, that level playing field, that balance, that common ground, I guess is encouraging for every golf watcher.
I'm sorry to keep you, but obviously it's a huge story. I think that the question, I think, on everyone's lips is going to possibly be about the players, isn't it? Those players that have got to now stand side by side, and it's how they're going to square this. It's just going to be fascinating. How would you react if you were, you know, the staunch advocate of the PGA Tour with a LIV player next to you now? How would you square it?
I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care if I was standing on the first tee with somebody like that. It would inspire me. It would give me a little bit extra to have a go. I would still feel, from my point of view, that was where my heart was, and I was not just doing it for myself, but doing it for my team. But team in the loose sense. Now we're getting this opportunity to come together, and there is that little bit of fire burning under some of these kind of relationships that they had. Some maybe unable to get back together again, won't be able to reconcile. Others will be fine, and we'll just take on. Like I said, my one question is, some of those that were offered copious amounts of money to go and decided to stay, if that money's no longer there, I might be asking the odd question about where's that been?
You make a great point. Brilliant as always. Thank you so much, Andrew.